Hey everyone, this is in my Sleepy Vlog countdown, Sleepy Vlog number 2. So that makes it actually the 30th vlog in a row. Of course these were supposed to be every day. They must at best be every other day. Or a little more than every other day, I guess, because I'll be done before October's over. It's supposed to be done at the end of September. And it's kind of too bad that I didn't time it so that this was the last vlog, because this is my post-visit with Travis, post-visit with Oddfellow Thoughts, in-person vlog, to consider that. And plus I'm just going to ramble about some other stuff while I'm at it. Maybe a few more thoughts on the old versus new comics after looking at all the comments that I've gotten so far. A little more than a week ago, I went to a funeral, memorial service for an 18-year-old or 17-year-old girl who had just died of a massive surprise attack of cancer. She went to the hospital, and a few days later she was dead. And it was just kind of a devastatingly sad affair. I was a more distant person in her world. I knew her more when she was about 15, just at my friend's house. When I would come over there for dinner, she would be there. But she was a really great girl, and it was just an incredible tragedy. It's an incredible tragedy when anyone really young dies. And the thing that I noticed about this ceremony, or this service, was that it, what was left behind her as her life ended was not so much the things she had done, like drawn a comic book, or sang a song, which I guess she was a really good singer, but anyway, the things she had done were not the important thing that she left behind. The important thing that she left behind was the community. It was a community of people that were left there mourning her. Probably concentric rings of community around her, because I was a pretty distant part of that community. And that was a powerful notion to me, and I actually thought, afterwards I don't spend enough time on my local community, my community where I live. And I thought for a little bit, maybe I'm wasting too much of my time on this YouTube community, which is ephemeral and will probably be gone in a year or 2 years or something. But then I don't know, I did a little flip in my head, and I decided that this community was real enough that that I wanted to stick with it for now, and that maybe, although if I suddenly die, I don't think any of you guys will be there at the service. But that there is a community here that has some reality and some weight. And so, just to emphasize that, a week after the funeral, I'm off meeting one of you guys in person. One of my favorite reviewers, Travis, half of Monster Comic Reviews, and the solo reviewer on his No Capes and his What the Fugue shows. So I hope to meet his family someday in the future, if that's possible. So it was really cool. There's a little trepidation meeting someone in person. I kind of joked to someone that my big worry was, what if we smell bad to each other? Is there kind of there's a different experience meeting someone in person. I didn't smell anything. Maybe I didn't get close enough to Travis to smell him. But he didn't smell bad enough that it wafted towards me. So, and hopefully I was not too smelly either. So the difference between Travis on video and in Hangouts compared to in person is actually not as big as I thought it would be. The main thing is he is very tall, and it does change his presence. A certain figure from horror movies thought that I was flattering when I said on Twitter that he had an imposing presence. But he carries his tallness in a very in a good way, and it's not purposefully imposing, but it just gives him a little more of an oomph than when you're just looking at him from the shoulders up or the like. But otherwise, he is continually the intelligent, affable, nice, gentle, reasonable person that you see on the web, and he really can talk about comic books. I suppose so can I. And if you saw our review show that we did together, you may have gotten the impression that I got, which is that he reads the comics with a greater intensity of focus than I do. He seems to get what the writers of the comic books are going for a little better than I do. And you could argue they should be able to communicate to my dense brain, and they usually do. But I feel like Travis follows it better. Maybe that's because he has more brain cells than me or something left. But in any case, it was a huge amount of fun, and I was really sad when it ended, even though we'd literally been talking about almost nothing but comic books for 9 hours. So yeah, it was also, we each drove at least or close 3 or more hours from our respective homes to where we met, and then 3 or more hours back. And I got, at least during the daytime on the drive there, I got to drive through the Columbia River Gorge and then up beyond into I guess it's called the High Desert, where Pendleton, Oregon is. And it was a beautiful, beautiful drive. But my tiny little car that I've bought now does cause a lot of leg cramping up on a long drive like that. I had to stop about every hour. And it was kind of sad, in my sad little life, I guess, that when it was over, it's like, okay, now what big event do I look forward to? I guess picking up my daughter at school this afternoon. I'm taking the day off from work today. Brought my daughter to school. I'm going to go and have lunch with her. They encourage parents to have lunch with their kindergartners. And then I'm going to pick her up at 3. So that's my new excitement now that I don't have, looking forward to hanging out with Travis. But anyway, it went really well. There's nothing that went bad except, maybe that there wasn't much to do in the town of Pendleton, or much that I had figured out in advance, since I was kind of the one who picked Pendleton. Although there really wasn't any other choice, as far as I know, as a place in between us. When we were filming the videos of the No Capes independent comic video reviews, we were in a park. Behind us there was nobody, but in front of us were actually a lot of people. And I kept worrying that we were bothering them and stuff. But Travis has no inhibitions there, so I felt like I needed to follow suit and step up. And then his battery or other things on his camera kept failing, or then it ran out of memory. So things were kind of choppy, and we kept starting and restopping. And that was a little tricky. And it was a little weird because I felt like we started being a little bit like Siskel and Ebert or something. So it felt a little more self-conscious than I normally would doing a review. And next time, if there is a next time, or maybe just through through the Google Hangouts, I should have Travis do my show. My show just doesn't have a format, since I just call it Comic Book Thoughts. And so I should drag him onto my channel, and we'll do a sloppier, less organized show. Because I've also did Monster Comics reviews with him once. And he has a format where you switch back and forth, one person introducing the comic and then asking the other person what they thought about it, which is a very good format. So anyway, that all went really well, and I feel like I should have something more interesting to tell you guys. I wish I had recorded more of our conversations, but it never felt like we were in quite the right place to record a conversation and keep it going. But I should have just turned on the camera a lot more. And so if we ever get together again, or if I ever get together with anyone else, I want to remember to just record more. It's just fun to kind of overhear the conversation, I think. I did yesterday my vlog was about old versus new in comics, and my main theme being that I felt like at some point comic books have petered out, like superhero comic books have petered out in creating new heroes, and I got a lot of interesting comments there. Tim Howlermouse was on the track of the point that all heroes seem to have come from someone else. You know, you can track what pulp heroes Superman came from and what pulp heroes Batman came from, and then all the other heroes are copying each other and everything. So that is true. So maybe you could use that as an argument that you don't need new heroes because they've all been done before. But somehow Batman brought something that made him eventually a really exciting character that was different than Zorro or the Shadow, even though his roots clearly come straight from there. And I guess some of the plots to early Batman stories came straight from plots from the Shadow pulp. And I think I kind of skipped the fact that really in the 90s an enormous amount of new characters were created. And we're seeing that some of them come back from Valiant. But there were all these comic book companies putting out superheroes. Image itself, most of its superheroes are gone. A bunch of Wildstorm superheroes are now exist in the DC universe, I guess. There was that Ultraverse, you know, with Rune and Prime and a bunch of other heroes that's gone now. And I think it was Tim also who pointed out that that Marvel buys up companies too. It's not just DC, and they seem to buy up the companies and then just kill them. So they bought up the Ultraverse company, and so it's kind of sad that Rune and Prime don't exist anymore. And I guess anytime Marvel wants, they could pull them out of the hat. I particularly liked Rune, although maybe we're all vampired out at this point. But Rune was just this really evil, almost alien vampire creature. In fact, I think he might have an origin as an alien, and maybe a big part of what was cool about him was that he was written and drawn by Barry Windsor Smith. And maybe the 90s serves as an example to creators. You can create all kinds of new superheroes, but they'll probably disappear, especially if you don't create them at Marvel and DC. But if you create them at Marvel and DC, you won't have ownership of them. So that might be a factor. It's only the Marvel and DC heroes, and now maybe some Robert Kirkman stuff at Image, maybe Spawn, maybe Savage Dragon, since those have kept dragging on, although one's got to think they're just going to go whenever their creators lose interest in them or pass away. Where was I going with that? There may just be less of a motivation in terms of, well, there's the whole factor of you don't own it if you do it for Marvel, but if you try to create a whole universe of superheroes today, they'll probably be gone tomorrow. Unless DC buys them up and incorporates them into their universe. if Marvel buys them up, they'll probably just cancel them all. And I suppose DC's probably just put the kibosh on a lot of things they bought up too. The whole Captain Marvel story, where he was DC and Superman's greatest competitor, and then they finally killed him with a long, like decades long lawsuit, and then at some point later bought up all the Fawcett properties, and then have been struggling to make Shazam and Captain Marvel popular, and then have lost the copyright to the name Captain Marvel. It's just all kind of funny, isn't it? And if Captain Marvel was such a terrible ripoff of Superman, why would they even want to revive Captain Marvel? But that's total comic book trivia, and I'm just drifting off there. Let's see, what else did I want to point out from the comments there? I should have written down the comments because they're all on this iPad that I'm filming with, so I can't view the comments at the same time, unfortunately. But I think it was Carlos Infante, or maybe it was Comic Book Guy Rules, who pointed out that a lot of characters just become uninteresting, and then suddenly someone comes along and makes that character really interesting and exciting again. Like Jason Aaron is doing with Thor now, or like I don't know, we've all seen it done over and over again, like Mark Waid is doing with Daredevil at the moment, for instance. But it does, I think that the overall point that I was fishing for, and maybe mentioned when I was talking about the old versus new, was the idea of whether this lack of many new superheroes, if it meant the superhero genre was kind of in its last days. But maybe you don't need much newness. Maybe you can go on for many more decades. So maybe, I was wrong about thinking that the 80s were the last time where new superheroes were created. Maybe the 90s were the last time when many new superheroes were created. But maybe they've continued all along, and I'm just not quite so aware of it. I just don't know. And I might have thought back in the late 90s that I was done with superheroes, and maybe convinced myself that I was pretty much done with them forever, except for nostalgic trips back to them. But then lately I found, a lot of good stuff in the superheroes at DC and at Marvel. And here and there elsewhere. I don't really follow Invincible, maybe because he's kind of gory. Gotten too violent for me after a while. And Dark Horse keeps trying to bring back superheroes. It feels to me that Dark Horse's superheroes are too obscure, even the ones they're bringing back, that they need something more sticky, if you will, to the imagination, that you can just grab onto and say, there's a superhero, I really want to follow. Not, here's a quirky little hero that's kind of like one of the second Banana heroes. That's what it, with even the titles, Brain Boy and the Occultist, and Captain Midnight, maybe Captain Midnight. I need to try that. But they're all bringing back old heroes anyway. But I do feel like I've come to accept that superheroes are more than I realized, that they really are an incredibly flexible tool for telling stories and for making serial stories. If someone comes out with a mini-series from Image or Dark Horse about a superhero, I'm less excited than if it promises to be just a never-ending, ongoing serial. And so yeah. On the other hand, it seems like with all there's especially with Marvel at the moment, but I'm sure we'll see it with DC, the constant rebooting and starting back with number one. It's almost like the way they're going is a series of miniseries. They just don't admit that they're miniseries about heroes. And it might make sense you retire a hero for a while until someone comes along with a really good idea for them, and then you reboot them. You do a mini or a maxi series for a year or two of them, and then you retire them again and bring them back out. That's, yeah, just more noodling in my head. So thanks for hanging in there. Thanks a lot to Travis for being able to hang out with me in person. I know that I probably haven't made as many real friends here on YouTube yet as someone like Travis has, but I certainly have friendly intentions. I'm sort of slow because I can't make it to many hangouts. I'm just sort of a slow build, I think, but I think I will continue to make. I do have some people who I already feel like are real friends here on YouTube, and I feel like more of you will become that way for me. And of course, it would help if more of you were in my time zone and more of you were close enough where I could actually visit. Or if anyone lives in Connecticut or Maine, because I visit those places almost every year, that would be great. Anyhow, talk to you all later. Bye-bye.